Hey guys, so it's just me and Brandon right now. Ethan wasn't feeling well because I think he got radiation poisoning from that nuke that went off last episode. But you know what? That we'll talk about that another time. But you know what? Stacked. We got to start getting back to a normal sense of reality. So we're gonna keep it up, and we're gonna create stacked episodes in this nuclear apocalypse for you. And
Hey guys, it's me. I've
oh
come
my
back
God,
from
he's
the
alive!
nuclear blast. I have a big
He's so
bulging eye
deformed.
growing out of my forehead. If you poke it, it shoots out
You look like
pus.
you
Let
just
me
came
do
out
it.
of
Let me do it.
Chernobyl.
Oh, gross.
Please don't poke my big, disgusting third eye I've grown on my forehead. And
I,
also, please do not mention the third arm that is growing out of my tailbone.
I
I
gotta,
really am a big,
I gotta
gross
go.
mess.
I gotta go get some food. We need some food in this environment.
This nuclear winter has not done well to me. But it's good to see that woolly mammoths are back.
All right. Cool
Hi
intro.
everyone. Hey, I'm still the host here. Hold on, I'm
Okay.
gonna do the intro.
Do all of it. Yeah, I said you could
Yeah.
do all of it. Do it.
Okay, so welcome back, guys. It is episode 25. I cannot believe we're at episode 25 already. That is insane to me. We started this podcast how many months ago now? It's December, so
I feel like
and
it
we
was
started.
like June or July.
It's been half a year.
Maybe
Yeah.
like
Holy shit, guys, that's
Yeah.
huge. But yeah,
Well, this is our 25th episode, right?
yeah.
How many
episode
weeks are in a
25.
year?
52.
like one. Oh, okay. Sorry.
The nuclear blast has kind of mushed my brain together.
Knock him out. Kill him. Take him out.
Oof. All right. What's next, Chris?
Chris.
It's Christ. Chris is our Christ. In
Well-
this nuclear winter.
Guys, this is my first time trying to lead the host to begin with, so
Chinese
I'm a little
Jesus.
lost. So okay,
I'm taking a back seat this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little deformed, so he needs a little help for this one. But yeah, okay. So our selection of movies, redo. Our theme for this week is movies.
No,
We
it's
have-
not.
You idiot.
Its sequel's better than the original.
Sorry,
You just
Sorry.
spoiled next week's. Not
Redo.
even next week. You
Redo.
spoiled 2
Redo.
weeks from now.
redo. Cut that out. Cut that out. Shut the fuck up. Shut up.
Yeah.
So episode 25, right? So we are gonna have some fun and pick out. I think we're gonna do. I don't know what the fuck is going on even.
You want Daddy to take the wheel?
All right, I'm gonna give it one more go if I can't do
Okay.
it. Okay. All right. So our theme for this week, guys, is sequels better than the originals. Now, I think a lot of the time we always hear the opposite. We always hear the original is always the best. You can never top it, and sequels are always just like trying to, capitalize on the success of its predecessor. But I think there's also a really fair, list of movies out there that might actually be very strong and perhaps even better successors to their original counterparts. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this idea of originals versus sequels?
Yeah, I was kind of the one that thought of this idea. I was sitting on my couch. I looked at there's a letterbox list going around on Twitter of sequels better than the originals. Like, oh, that's not a bad idea to do for Stacked. And sort of like the criteria for my list is like, it doesn't have to be the direct sequel. You know what I'm saying? But as long as it's better than the first film in that franchise.
Right.
So I will allow me. I'm not the lead host this episode. So as one of the other hosts of the episode, I will personally not. I will not have any qualms if you pick a third or a fourth film in the franchise, as long as you give a good argument of why it's better than the
shit.
first one. You know what I'm saying? Are we all on the same page here?
Yeah.
Brandon, what do you think?
Oh, I just thought of a movie that I didn't put on my list, but I want to put on my list, but I don't think I'll put on my list.
All right. So what is this show about? So
I don't know. Yeah, tell me. Yeah, you've heard me say it 24 times.
So each week we set a topic or theme and go our separate ways to construct our own perfect 3-film stack. Then once a week has passed, we come back here on the podcast, then in a round robin, share our own stacks one film at a time. At the end of the show, we will mix and match these 9 films to create the ultimate decision on what our quintessential 3-film stack we are checking out of this hypothetical video store.
Wow, first try. Get fucked, Ethan.
To quote Ray Fiennes from the Grand Budapest Hotel, very good.
Very good. Yeah, so that's how it is. That's how we're gonna do it. And I think, Ethan, am I correct to say that I'm going first this episode?
Indeed. Yes, you are.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna kick us off with a favorite of mine ever since I was a kid, and it's honestly still a favorite to this day. It is a 2004 film directed by famed horror director Sam Raimi. Except this is not a horror film. This is Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man.
Now, oh wow, I adore this movie. I think in every way this is a perfect successor to the original. I think it's everything from its plot, its narrative, its its scope, its scale. Everything is just dialed to 11 on this one. But I think what really captures what makes this movie a great sequel to me is that it really builds on the original about this idea of responsibility. Of course, we all know the famous quote, with great power comes great responsibility. But you also have this really incredible story about Peter learning to not only be Spider-Man, but to be a Peter Parker as well. And I just think it's so eloquent the way it handles that theme by just they really just hammer Peter Parker to a pulp in this film. He never catches a break, whether that's in his love life, his professional life, school, being Spider-Man, his obligations to his Aunt May. Everything is just like not working for him, and nonetheless he perseveres, and that is what makes Spider-Man great. I think Spider-Man is the most popular superhero in the world because he's so relatable. I think a lot of kids look to Spider-Man and think, that guy's kind of just like me. Yeah, I don't have superpowers or anything like that, but like I have kind of similar problems to him. I'm shy. I'm not like the most outgoing kind of guy, whatever. But like that's kind of all that Spider-Man like is. He is that archetype of, I am this amazing superhero, but I'm also this nerdy kid who likes to read comic books and shit. And I don't know, like, I just think there's this, man, I'm trying to think, like, how do I say this without spoiling it? But like, it's so heart-wrenching. There's this scene at the end where Spider-Man, I'm just gonna say, he lets go, and he turns around and he looks, he glances away. That stolen glance, that stolen look that he takes is so fucking heartbreaking, because I've felt that emotion before. And I don't know, what do you guys think about this movie?
The last time I watched this movie was in a bathtub.
All right,
Brandon? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I like Spider-Man 2. It's definitely Sam Raimi's best Spider-Man film. Dr. Octopus is an amazing villain. I think it's a top tier Spider-Man villain because of this film, and Alfred Molina's performance as Otto Octavius.
Incredible. He's great.
It really makes this really hokey character from the comic books, like this fat guy with like these robot tentacles, going, Spider-Man, I'm the mad scientist of the group. It really gives him a tragic and rather horrific storyline.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi bringing in his horror elements to that, the real
hospital
origin of Dr. Octopus as a villain and his tentacles, in the hospital. I mean, this movie, it does the best at making Peter Parker like a poor young adult. The dude is this is the movie with like the rent guy, right? Their landlord. Yes. He's
yeah.
That the memes come from this one, and of course the greatest meme of all, Pizza Time. It's in this one. Gotta love it. Peter Parker struggling to keep up jobs, living in a shitty apartment, But the biggest problem that I have with all of Sam Raimi's films not all of his films, all of his Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films that like I feel like Brandon's trying to do hand motions to my words. Is
It's fine. We're in quarantine
I
from the bomb.
all right, we're done with that role play. We're moving on. We're Stack Podcast. Is okay. So Spider-Man, it's a melodramatic like franchise, right?
It is. It really is.
It's a teenager, dealing with growing up and relationships and balancing being a superhero and being in the lower class. And I think Raimi takes it a bit too far in his movies, if I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know if I just think there's what I like to say with Raimi Spider-Man against like other Spider-Mans in movies is I feel like Raimi treats Spider-Man like Superman in his movies. I feel like I just don't see Spider-Man, like maybe it's because like he is like the sole superhero in this universe and there's no other like character to really like compare him to, because that's the thing that I love about Spider-Man in the comics is that he's so small scale compared to all the Avengers, the Fantastic Four. Spider-Man's the first issue of the Amazing Spider-Man, not his debut appearance in I think it was called Amazing Fantasies or something like that. But the Amazing Spider-Man #1 is Peter Parker goes with his powers to get a job at the Fantastic Four. I love the storylines of him looking up to other heroes, but here it just seems like he carries the weight of the entire world on his shoulders, as Spider-Man. And it just doesn't vibe with me. I think it makes it a little too over melodramatic, even though I love melodrama in Spider-Man. And I think those issues persist in this film, at least for me, and why I'm not too big of a fan of. I mean, I think this film is great. I like Spider-Man 2. I wouldn't say I love it. I like it. But yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I think go for it.
Sorry. But like, yeah, I think like you bring up a really good point about how, like Spider-Man, is like oftentimes, and at least for some people, is at his best when he is, he's like he has to live among the ranks of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and all that. Because like, small guy, big world. That is Spider-Man. But at the same time, I think maybe it's because of the way I viewed this movie as a kid. But I remember, like, to this day now, I view this as a Peter Parker movie before I view it as a Spider-Man movie. Does that make sense?
That's a really good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to go into this movie. You're here for the character and you're here for his story. You're not here for the action or the explosions or the adventure, even though those parts are really great too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, Ethan. Brandon, what do you think?
I'm not a fan of the Spider-Man character. You guys know that.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the first Sam Raimi movie and the Amazing Spider-Man and going, yep, I don't like him. But then I remember seeing Spider-Man 2.
Ooh.
And I was like, that movie's good.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like they're kind of cartoony, and I know like that was the kind of the point of early superhero movies, is they wanted to make them look like comic books and their characters, but there's a degree of realism to Spider-Man 2 that really works for me. And not only that, but they have like just the right amount of magic, in the movie, in the way that the supervillains are born, in the way that Peter Parker is dealing with his everyday life, his new life, essentially. Because in the first movie, it's an origin story. He's getting used to his new life, but this is him living it, right? And I think that the film deals with that really pretty well. The action's wonderful too. It's lived up. Hardly do you see an action movie where early CGI was like a big part of it that has lived up, but I think it does in this film. The train sequence is one of the best sequences in superhero cinema, in my opinion. I don't love the movie, but I do really like it. And it's probably the best representation of Spider-Man up until Spider-Verse, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
Also, one last thing to add is I think Chris, good point. Of clarifying, this is a great Peter Parker film.
Mhm.
So I recently rewatched this movie, and that train sequence, dog, it looks like a PS2 cutscene. Like
I disagree.
Does it really?
Yeah,
I disagree.
But I just watched it.
I don't care.
Watched it early.
I can disagree with you.
Go play a PS2 then. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. It's just it was hard for me to find believability in its rather aged visual effects. But I know a lot of people love it, so yeah.
Cool. Well, that's my first pick, and I think for our second one, we're going to be moving over to Ethan.
It's me.
So Ethan, we're going to be moving over to Ethan. Ethan, what's
Yeah.
your first pick?
Okay, fellas,
No.
would you believe me if I told you my first pick is a slasher film? That's right.
What is
So
it?
I gotta say, so this is how I
Oh.
picked my films. So it's not about, oh, these are my favorite films that just so happen to be sequels that are better than the original. I wanted this list to be sequels. These are the 3 films that are the most significantly better than its original. You know?
I see. Okay.
So the 3 films that I picked here are better by its original by at least 1 star, you know? Which
Right. Okay.
1 or 1.5. So
This fucker
my
had a
sequel.
science to it. The fuck?
yeah, I'm getting science up in this, you know? Being hit by that nuclear blast, it may have made me a little melted potato face character,
But your brain
but
increased
my
8
brain
times.
is fucking radiated with knowledge now. I'm all about
Knowledge.
science. Ask me anything about science and I can answer it. Anyways, my first pick is directed by a professor of mine,
Oh.
Tom McLaughlin. Shout out to
McLaughlin's?
Tom McLaughlin.
You're picking Friday?
Friday the 13th, Jason Lives is my first pick because was it Joey was the one who showed it to us
Yeah, it was Joey.
during the Halloween season. And before that, I had seen 2 Halloween films. No, Jesus, it's Friday the 13th.
Friday.
Excuse me. I always mix up these slashers, these big ones.
These flashers.
These
I always.
Again, I may be super smart, but the nuclear blast also made me hard to communicate because of the melting skin on my lips. But the first Friday the 13th I've seen, and it's really boring. I think everyone knows that it's really boring. And then the next Friday the 13th I've seen was the remake with the famous Mambo number 5. We watched the Mambo number 5 cut, with the credit sequence. And that one is just like super cliche to the franchise and with horribly written characters and everything. But this one I feel like is a great celebration of the iconography of the Friday the 13th franchise, of the visuals that make it so iconic, that make the character of Jason and Camp Crystal Lake so iconic. But it also has just a great time making fun of the tropes of a slasher film. I think Tom McLaughlin brings a lot of great humor into this film. With the kills, the kills aren't as complicated as stuff you'd see in A Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween. They're rather simple, but I think they're really funny with how he executes them. And yeah, I don't know. This was one of the biggest surprises I've had in a while, finding a slasher from one of these big franchises that I really, really like. And it's Jason Lives, baby. And it's a blast. What do you guys think? I know we all saw it together, so.
I saw this movie freshman year because I remember buying the Friday the 13th movies up to the 4th one, and then I knew that my professor, because I got the email, he's like, I directed this movie, and I bought it, and I saw it, and I actually don't think this is a good movie. I think it's kind of poorly made. I enjoy it, Ethan. I will give it a good rating. I know you're looking it up, but I don't think it's a well-made movie. I think it's very fun. Not the best slasher out there. I think the Scream movies and the Nightmare movies are better, but I do think it's very enjoyable and is probably the best of the Friday movies. So you're right in the fact that this is the best Friday movie, for sure.
Well, okay, I don't think that the slasher as a genre is inherently good.
You're wrong.
So I agree with you that like I don't think any of them are really like I don't think I've ever seen a slasher that's like, oh, that's like well made film, you know? There's
I
always
disagree.
a sort of level of filmmaking to all these films, and I just think this one has the most fun with it, you know? So,
Meh.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like I remember seeing this, like you said, Ethan, with Joey for one of our movie nights, and one thing I did really appreciate about this movie is I think McLaughlin does a really good job with realizing the comedic potential that this franchise has. I think he's able to identify like, okay, this is a ridiculous concept for a movie, but we're gonna run with it, and I think he does a really good job with that. Although it's how do I put it? It's like it's not nearly as like raunchy or graphic as I might like my slasher films to be, which is why I'm such a big fan of movies like the Nightmare on Elm Street series or the Saw movies or etc. etc. But like I will most definitely say that this is a very very enjoyable incarnation of the Jason character, and that last sequence on the boat is probably one of the best Friday 13th scenes I've seen put to screen. It is so much fun. I love that boat sequence because it's just
Right.
it's smart. It's smart filmmaking, and it's just like there. And I don't know this. You ever see a movie and you just think, I would have loved to be on this set and just work here because this looks like fun.
Right.
This
I
seems like one of those sets.
I think when Jason like actually arrives to the camp in that third act, I'm just like, this is like the Friday the 13th that everybody knows and loves, you know? Like it has the cabins, it has the teenagers, it has Jason, and it's like it's all super fun. He kills the cop, you know? It's like, oh man, okay, now I get why this franchise has lived for so long, you know? Yeah, that's
All right,
Friday the 13th, Jason. Is this part 6? Part
Yeah.
6, yeah, Jason
part
lives.
6. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, great pick, Ethan. Moving on, Brandon. What is your first pick?
My first pick is from the 70s. It's a Francis Ford Coppola movie. It's called Godfather Part 2.
Uh-oh.
What?
Ethan hasn't seen this film.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Oh my god.
Really? You haven't seen Godfather 2?
I haven't seen. I've seen The Godfather. I have not seen The Godfather Part 2 yet. I
Well,
don't know why.
Here's
Dude, they make. Sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I respect the first Godfather movie. I just don't love the first Godfather movie. I think it's well made. It's another movie that I think is well made, but I just, something's missing there. And I think it's just like the story beats in that movie just don't work for me. Maybe I need to rewatch it, but I remember watching it like 3 times and falling asleep 2 times, and I don't fall asleep during movies. Like I made a fucking appointment to watch this movie in the afternoon as a child just so that I could stay awake. But then immediately after I finished the first one, I actually popped in the second one, and it's one of like the best gangster movies and best crime movies that I've seen in my entire life. Like the way it interweaves Don Corleone's life with his sons is probably like one of the most beautiful and tragic things you'll ever see, because like you see the rise of 2 different people in the same family, but also at like the very end, like a little bit of their falls from graces. And it's heartbreaking in a sense because there's moments in this movie with Al Pacino's brother that are haunting. There is this movie where he shakes him at a moment where he shakes him at the end, and you really feel it. And yes, it's long, but it is truly one of the best movies ever made, and I will die on that hill. And actually right I met John Schnepp at Comic-Con, and in like 2015, and I
Big
remember
man.
and we were talking about which Godfather movie was better, and kind of having a Comic-Con, it's kind of weird. But that was one of the conversations I remember. He was like, when you're older, rewatch Godfather, because that's like, that's when it'll overtake part 2. But for me,
Mhm.
like a decade spanning narrative about the rise of 2 like crime sons is fascinating because it also tells the American story. Who doesn't love that? Chris?
Yeah, I mean, like, so it has been way too long since I've seen the Godfather movies. I think like the Godfather franchise, but especially that first one, gets like, it's kind of like one of those films that I think gets saturated by film school.
Yeah.
It's so often talked about. It's like Citizen Kane. It's like, I don't know, 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Pulp
Clockwork
Fiction.
Orange, Fight Club, Pulp Fiction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but like, yeah, I think the second one, like, it does a really good job, I think, with like immersing me into Michael Corleone. I think like, just seeing him take the reins of the family and fucking going at it with the same level of like silently furious silently furious intensity as Vito Corleone
Yeah.
had in the 1910s. I don't know, it was just so like there's something so enthralling about seeing Al Pacino, like in his prime, like kicking ass and taking names. It's a weird, I hate that phrase.
I
But
kind of think he's more ruthless than Vito was in the first one.
I would say so.
Because
He's
like
pretty- yeah.
he's younger and more unforgiving of people who betray him
Mm-hmm.
and his wife, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
He's ruthless on his wife. I can't do. I wish I could do a good.
But yeah, it really does. Oh, sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry.
No, I was just doing dumb bullshit Don Corleone impressions, going completely off topic. I'm sorry.
Michael is like Michael versus Vito. Vito is equal to Don because he was the Don.
Ah. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I
Okay.
don't know why. I've just been like, it's too long. I don't feel like it.
Wait, you haven't seen either of them?
I've seen the first one.
Oh, okay.
This is how I saw the first one. My family and I, we all sat down together. We ordered meatball subs from the best meatball sub place in all of Salt Lake City, Moochie's Meatballs. Free advertising there, Moochie's. I love your fucking shop. Everyone go to Moochie's and buy Moochie's.
Sponsor us.
But sponsor us. Oh, if we could get sponsored by Moochie's, that'd be amazing. Anyways, if we could get sponsored by Moochie's, that'd be amazing. Shut up, Ethan. Anyways. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Sorry.
Awesome. No worries.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, I do. I know. I know.
All right, so that is the end of our first round. So we're gonna dial it back to me for a second pick. Now, my second pick, I'm gonna pick this one first. It's a 2017 film directed by, I think. Okay, real quick. I think the three of us, we have very different tastes in films, but I think we all have there are certain directors that all three of us adore. Akira Kurosawa, David Fincher, Quentin Tarantino,
Hayao Miyazaki.
Hayao Miyazaki. But there's a one, and I think this is one, and I think it might be all three of our favorites of his works. Maybe. I think there's some flexibility there.
Oh, yeah.
Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049.
Oh,
Gooba Goo?
no, wait.
Gooba
I thought you were gonna do Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok.
Why would I? Okay. I mean,
Because that's
it
better than the
It is.
original.
It is better than the original. And definitely
I
better
don't
than
know,
the second.
man. I like Thor.
You think No.
I like Kenneth Branagh's Thor.
It's I don't know. Okay.
Anyway, so
Progress.
Blade Runner 2049. This movie is wow. This movie is something else. I did not think I would like this movie going into it. I think this might have been my first film I've ever seen by Denis Villeneuve, and what a great way to start off. Denis Villeneuve, like starting to adore Denis Villeneuve. You could go on for hours about this movie. It's commentary on morality, it's commentary on humanity, environmentalism, social staggering between humans and replicants, and like all this craziness. Basically, the film asks a very broad question of what is it to be human, and it explores that in many different facets in a very cohesive narrative. Ryan Gosling, Jared Leto, Harrison Ford, and Ana de Armas, they are all fantastic in this movie. Denis Villeneuve's directing, I think this might have been his best directed film so far. He absolutely kills it. I don't know, I'm trying to think what else. Like, just the themes on like humanity. I can't stop pondering that question ever since I saw this movie. It's such an interesting discussion, and I think it really contributes to that discourse. And I think it does it better than the original Blade Runner ever did. I'm just gonna really quickly shout out the star of this movie, Roger Deakins, who fucking deserved that Oscar so much.
Oh, mamma mia.
Yeah, he is master. Anyway, What do you guys think? You guys both love this movie, right?
Dude, both Blade Runner movies are in my top 20 favorite films of all time. But I like the original just a little bit more. Like they're
Okay.
both 10 out of 10 masterpieces, but I don't know if I would say this is a sequel better than its original, but I'm happy to talk about Blade Runner 2049 because I saw this alone because nobody else wanted. I don't think I knew you two back when this film came out. It was like I kind of knew you two. Like we were classmates, but we weren't friends. In October of 2017. So I saw this film alone because I don't think anybody really else wanted to see it, and I just remember sitting there because this film bombed at the box office. Nobody else saw it either, so there was like very few people in there, and I just remember sitting down and just being completely overflowed by the score. Oh my god.
Zimmer's score.
Zimmer's
kills it.
score. And who's the other guy who helped Zimmer work on it?
Let me
it was
double
someone
check
else.
that.
It's
Junkie XL? No, just kidding.
not Junkie XL. It is oh my god. Oh,
my
Benjamin
God.
Wallfish. I think
Yes.
okay.
What a weird name.
Wallfish. He did the It movies. Interesting. But those two do a completely sweeping score that it's sweeping in the sense of an epic, but it uses synths and stuff like that, which is so completely original to itself. I mean, there are plenty of synth scores, but they all feel smaller scale, but this one feels grand, and it just the themes of what it means to be a human. I love that in the original film we're sort of all on our toes thinking whether Harrison Ford's Deckard is really a replicant or not, but from the very beginning we know Ryan Gosling is a replicant.
Yep.
And how does that mean for him to like find his own existentialism, his purpose and meaning in this world as someone who isn't considered to have a soul? How does one find a soul who is told that they don't have one, which is what this movie is essentially about. And having that parallel with Ana de Armas as a hologram, as like another character to play off who has arguably even less of a soul than him, it's crazy. And Denis Villeneuve goes all out in the production design of this film. Roger Deakins, the cinematography, I think the performances are great. And those last 5 minutes of the film, I am just left, my mouth, I think my mouth literally jumped to the floor. My jaw was on the ground. No. Yeah. But I just remember that the ending always makes me cry. And I just remember the image of myself in the theater as everyone is leaving at the credits, me just alone. I was paralyzed in my chair of what I just saw when I saw it for the first time. It completely blew my expectations out of the water. I was so surprised.
It's a very like contemplative movie.
Yeah.
And like you really just like throughout the entire film, you're just continually thinking about where do you feel about this like discussion about what is a human? And like I think the film posits an answer, but doesn't necessarily say it's the correct one.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting thing because I don't know if we can ever answer that question about what is it that makes us human, because quite frankly, humans are such a unique and, diverse range, and like it's so hard to confine us to a singular definition. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, I could go on for hours and hours about this film. One of my proudest Letterboxd reviews is for this movie. So if you ever want to hear my thoughts on it, check it out. Ooh. Brandon, Blade Runner 2049.
It's a shame it bombed. I didn't see it in theaters. Is. I wanted to.
You didn't see it in theaters?
I wanted to. But what happened was I didn't have a way to get to the movies, and I didn't have money freshman year. So I was like stuck in a situation where I was like, well, shit. Like for the first semester mostly, I was stuck with whoever in my friend group who had a car wanted to go see which movie. So basically that was it. And then I think Chris and I went to see a movie in that, because we always went to a movie in December and May before we had stuff. so I forgot what we went to see then. But like, it just didn't. But I did see it. I saw it over winter break. I got a letterbox copy, or not a letterbox, a red box copy. Sorry, my
Oh.
bad.
In
And
December
yeah,
of 2017.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
How is that legal? Like it came out that fast, a month after
Well,
its
that's
release.
it bombed. No, it didn't
Oh,
come out in
yeah, you're
November.
right.
It came out in like
In October.
September or
No, it came out
October. Yeah.
October.
So that, and because it bombed, they didn't show it in theaters
Oh
that much.
yeah.
So they came out with
Interesting.
like the rental earlier. And I
Right.
remember seeing it and really loving it, and loving it more than the original. I agree with Chris on this one. I think the first movie is kind of overrated. I don't hate it by any stretch. I think it's kind of boring, and I think I was never really invested in Harrison Ford's journey. I was invested in the end of the film with his conversation with his maybe fellow replicant. Like the soliloquy in the rain is really intriguing, and I think I need to see it again for sure. But I also know that I was really paying attention, and I was not really trying to be disappointed in the movie. Sometimes that happens where you're like, you want to like a movie so much, and then it doesn't hit you in any way. So that's kind of how I feel about it. But yeah, Ryan Gosling's journey in this movie is so great, so fascinating. Gosling and Dave Bautista give both of their greatest performances they've ever given.
Right.
And that's shocking because I went into this movie thinking, oh, it's not going to be a performance movie at all. It's just going to be a modernized version where they add action to Blade Runner. And it was not that at all. It was more introspective, and I really enjoyed that. Something else, I know it's off topic. It's got to do with Denis. I don't think this is Denis' best film. I think he's done two better movies. I think Prisoners is like on the edge, like it's right there with Blade Runner, and I love Arrival more than I like this movie.
Oh, right. I forgot you loved Arrival.
I absolutely love Arrival, and I love Blade Runner 2049. I think they're both
Yeah.
masterpieces. But this one, I think this was his magnum opus.
Okay.
I don't know if he
Yeah.
can beat it with Dune.
It's not, yeah,
One's
I'm kind of
original,
like,
the other's not. So
I love how like Brandon's favorite Denis films are Prisoners, Arrival, and Blade Runner. Ethan, yours is hands down Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
And mine is often a toss up between Blade Runner 2049 and Sicario.
Okay.
I don't think Sicario is that good.
Shut up, Brandon. A call out to Joey. You got to rewatch Blade Runner 2049 with us.
Oh
Like,
yes.
He will change his mind. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Did
I
he
bet
hate it?
He's not the biggest fan for now. That will change.
Yes.
Anyway, second pick. Let's keep this going. Ethan, why don't you take us into your next one?
Okay, so mine, I know you two haven't seen this film, but I had to talk about it because I just recently rewatched it, and it blew me away, to say the least.
King
it is
Kong.
a sequel to it's a sequel to a reboot, if you will. It's a Godzilla film. When Godzilla was rebooted in the 80s with the return of Godzilla, its following film, Godzilla vs. Biollante, is fucking fantastic. I'm not really that big of a fan of Godzilla's 80s the series. I think it's called the Heisei era, because they map Godzilla's franchises by the eras in Japan as well, match them. So there's the Showa era and the Heisei era and the Millennium era. Anyways, regardless, this one is definitely my favorite of the Heisei era because it captures the darkness that a lot of 80s films, 80s blockbusters want to capture since Batman. It actually came out the same year as Batman. But it also balances the whimsy and the fantasticalness and the overall just the fun of the Showa films that I really love. This movie is okay. Take these three kind of films. Take a John Woo film. Take a James Bond film, and then take Little Shop of Horrors and a Godzilla film and put that all in one, and that's Godzilla versus Biollante. It has this crazy plot of a mad scientist who created this monster called Biollante by splicing Godzilla's DNA with a rose. And somehow that horrible experiment causes the death of this mad scientist's daughter, and somehow her consciousness also gets enveloped in this freak of science accident. So it's Godzilla plus a rose plus this dude's daughter makes this giant, insane monster that goes after all these things, and then the film is mostly against Godzilla fighting this monster, while at the same time, this big sort of CIA spy action film about getting these stolen Godzilla cells. And look at okay, Brandon's showing the poster. Look at that beautiful poster. All of the Heisei films. Oh, Brandon, you switched it. All of the Heisei films are painted by the same artist, and they're all so beautiful. I would hang that in my goddamn house.
Yeah,
And
that's the kind of thing you would put up in like you know your home.
Yeah,
You know?
but it's just I think this has some of the best cinematography as well. There's some insane shots of Biollante because it's part rose. There's also like a bit of beauty to the character, and it does a really good job at framing these shots. And yeah, that's why I chose this film. I know you two have barely seen any Godzilla films.
I've seen like 4 or 5.
Seen 4, a couple.
It's like 2 or 3.
2, 3. But I remember when I first watched this in freshman year, I was going through all of Godzilla's films, and I thought this one was okay when I watched it for the first time, but then I watched it again, and just like in perspective of the series as a whole, since this is the sequel to this reboot franchise, I didn't see the subsequent ones that are not as good. So now looking back on that and the franchise as a whole, I was just like, wow, what a fun flick. It's great. Yeah. So if you guys ever want to check out Godzilla films, you got to be on the lookout for this one, I guess.
Awesome.
Sure.
Brandon, why don't you take us into your next one?
My number 2 stands on its own. It's Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Are you serious?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Are you serious?
It's better. It's better than the original.
Okay. I mean,
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Yes.
I know, Ethan.
Mamma
This is
Mia.
the second-
cue the MIDI music that we used from the ages ago. That was from Joey's episode when it was the Mamma Mia 2 podcast.
Well, here's
All right,
the thing.
Brandon.
I like the first one sort of as like a guilty pleasure. Well, I genuinely think the second one's a better movie that stands on its own because it's a story about like a daughter who's going through the loss of her mother, but at the same time kind of learning about her mom's past and figuring out oh, my mom was kind of cool. She wasn't what I thought, you know? And it's like a movie about remembering your past, but also like striving forward with your future. And the music.
That's a Back to the Future theme.
Yeah. And the movie utilizes the ABBA music really well. The first one, it's kind of like random. It's just like a greatest hits jukebox album. But here it feels like every single song matches up with a beat within the movie, to the point where it feels naturally integrated into the plot. Whereas sometimes in the original, it's like they don't need to be singing a song here. It's fun, I like it, but they don't need to be singing a song here. Not only that, but Lily James is in it. Amazing in this movie. She plays Meryl Streep better, I think. And yeah, I just really enjoy this movie. It's a party every time. Not embarrassed to say it. It's great. Chris?
Yes. I think I remember we were talking about Mamma Mia 2 one night, randomly went back when you and I lived together, and I remember you said, "You see Mamma Mia 2?" I was like, "It's good." And I was like, "Yeah, it's good." And you said, "Yeah, it's good." And I said, "Yeah, stands on its own. You don't need the first one." I remember you just found that so funny because when have you ever heard anyone say Mamma Mia 2 stands on its own?
No one, ever.
Never.
See?
Not once in my life have I heard anyone talk about Mamma Mia 2 besides YouTube geeks.
Well, you're not hanging out with the right people then, because I hear about it all the time. People are like,
Who are you talking to besides me and Chris?
yeah,
Who?
other women.
Okay.
Every girl I've talked to who likes the Mamma Mia franchise is like, oh yeah, Mamma Mia 2 is better than the first one.
Oh man, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so, um,
But the
God,
character
this-
moments are so good in this movie too. Amanda
there's a
Seyfried.
weird like genuine earnestness to the characters. Like, yeah, they're larger than life. Yeah, they are like all very pretty and like they have like great lives and everything. But there's something so innocently blissful about this movie. There's the scene that always comes back to mind is, for whatever reason, I think it's because Brandon kept showing it to me when we lived together, and I didn't mind it at all. Was that why did it have to be me scene on the boat? Man, that is a great scene. And like, I don't know, like the setting is just so like, it's magical in a weird way. Like there's something so organic and like kind of larger than life about the setting, but still kind of down to earth within the characters themselves. And yeah, I know we'll never sell Ethan on this until we lock him in a straight jacket and put him on the couch and make him watch it. Ooh. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
No.
Ethan, give us any input you have at all.
I don't fucking know. I don't know about any of these damn movies. I don't care about the
Let yourself be
music.
taken.
I don't care
Let
about Meryl
yourself be
Streep.
taken.
I don't care about fucking the older Stellan Skarsgård. I don't Amanda Seyfried. Whatever.
It's so fun.
A boat, Greek island.
It's a movie about family.
They should have picked it last episode.
No, but
Why
this
didn't
is a
you?
better because this is better than the original. So I had to.
I had to save it for this one.
I don't know.
All
These
right.
movies
well,
just feel like nothing to me. They're just
Well, you haven't
nothing.
watched them.
I know. I look at them. I'm like, yeah, that I can't. Like, it's like John Cena. I can't see them. Those are just nothing.
I can't. All right.
I can't
well,
even register them in my brain when you show me a poster. I'm just like, okay,
Do you want my cardboard cutouts?
that you want my cardboard cutouts?
All right. Well, let's bring it around for our final picks. So I'll start with me. And okay, well, man, here's an interesting thing. Not really interesting. It's kind of obvious, but I am the only one among the three of us whose favorite movie is a sequel.
Yeah. There you. Oh, we're finally talking about it, huh?
We're finally talking about this.
All
You're,
right.
waste,
Finally.
you're
we
popping
go.
the cherry now, huh? You're
We're
wasting
finally talking.
it. No, just kidding.
Ah.
Look, I'm gonna just start using this thing whenever I can because I want to give it the most attention I possibly can. Ethan, I know you love this movie. Brandon, I know you like this movie a lot. I don't know if you. I don't think you'd say you'd love it.
I'm on the
I know you.
edge.
I know you respect it. But so this is a 2008 film directed by Christopher Nolan, The Dark Knight. Now, I love this movie. Like,
Ooh.
I mean, you know, if you know me, you know this is my favorite movie. I adore everything about this movie, and I'm trying to think like what I can even highlight, but I think it just ups everything from Batman Begins and
Oh,
more,
yeah.
and then some. Whether
Oh, yeah.
that's you know, like, oh my god, like the scope and the scale, this sense of epicness. It's commentary on morality and social etiquette. It's like, you know, it's just so like, it's the most like contemporary neo-noir I could have ever asked for, and it's like just a great Batman film to top it off. The only reservation I have about this movie is Christian Bale's voice acting. I think his rough voice could use some tweaking. I think Ben Affleck does the Batman voice better. But other than that, I adore everything there is about this movie, and I could go on and on about like Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, Morgan Freeman, Aaron Eckhart. Is that how? Yeah, Aaron Eckhart. But of course, we all know the star of the show is Heath Ledger himself. Brandon Winchester's amazing impression speaks volumes about how.
You know, I really like this film. I'm in it. It's very
He really does do a better Joker impression when he's not doing a Joker
Yep.
impression.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, but like, yeah. I
I'm
mean, like,
terrible.
I got a Joker, like a Dark Knight poster staring at me right now, and next to it is a poster of her, and it's Joaquin Phoenix. So, big
Your
fan.
two Joker daddies are watching over you.
Yeah. And I mean, God, like, it's just so fucking good. Like, the cinematography is perfect. The score is amazing. Brandon, I think you saying that the best sequence in this movie is the boat sequence towards within that final confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
I might even agree with you on that. I think that's one of that scenario is kind of a very apt encapsulation of this movie as a whole. I think it holds everything that this movie does to its chest, and it does it beautifully. My favorite scenes, of course, are the interrogation scene
For
and the
the
final
shoot.
sequence where Gary Oldman gives us an amazing final speech to end it off. I've talked too much about this already, so Ethan, why don't you take the reins?
Oh boy, like it's weird. I have not seen this film in a while, but
Mm-hmm.
whenever I watch it, I'm just like, it's just like, it's weird to say, but it's just like it becomes more than a film for me somehow. Just probably because why are you flipping me off? What the hell, man? And I'm not saying
Brandon.
I love this film. It's not one of my favorites of all. Actually, it's in my top 30. It's a pretty damn good film. But it's just like it is such a good Batman story. You know, following
Mhm.
these characters. I think you nailed on the head with using the Joker as a tale of morality and
Mhm.
sort of talking about uh not really against chaos and order, but chaos and like justice. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to see how, like, these characters are encapsulations of these deep philosophical concepts.
Mhm.
And that's what keeps bringing me back to them. And I think that's what made Heath Ledger's incarnation of the Joker such a pivotal one for our culture. I think the reason he's so prominent as the Joker is because I don't know what it is, but maybe like Heath Ledger's acting and like his performance in this role struck a chord with our culture. So it said something about us in a way that maybe was able to resonate with people in a way that maybe we never were able to before.
Right.
Here's
And
what I'll
just
say. Sorry.
no. Here, what will you say?
I think it's one of the only performances, and it still is the case, that I look at the Joker in this movie, and I look at a picture of Heath Ledger, and I really can't tell the difference.
You can't tell the difference.
Like, it is one of the few performances where I disassociate the actor from the role, despite the fact because he enveloped that role.
Like he
Like,
became the Joker.
yeah, like I can't see Heath Ledger as anything else. So like I see Heath Ledger Joker, and that's all I think about. And then when I see regular Heath Ledger, I associate it with a number of films, like 10 Things I Hate About You and Brokeback Mountain, you know?
Right.
So
Like
it's
he
like,
transforms into another being
yeah,
almost. Right.
like I can't, when I look at the character, the makeup, maybe it's the makeup and his performance mixed together, I literally cannot recognize him.
You're just like that dude from Knight's Tale did not play that character. That's
Yeah.
Oh,
impossible.
no way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like what the
But
hell?
yeah.
Oh, fan fucking
Yeah.
It's iconic.
It
It's just
really
like
is.
it's what I think of when I think of a 21st century blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And, oh my
It's
god,
smart.
I could really go on for like literally hours about this movie, but we don't have the time for
Mhm.
that, and I'm gonna bore you guys if I keep going. So we're gonna move on. And Ethan, why don't you take us into
Oh,
our next
okay.
one?
That's fine.
It's the order.
But that's the order.
No, I haven't talked about it yet.
You
Oh,
did.
sorry.
Okay,
You
you want
did.
to talk more about it? Go ahead.
I thought you were just talking about Heath. Anyway, go on. Go on then.
I like this movie. I want to say, I do find it to be a bit long. That's a personal opinion thing. I also find it to be a very good movie, though. I think it's a great, like you said, the boat scene is amazing. It's got a great moral message about humanity that I think lives on today, about kind of like the ruthlessness of us and how you wouldn't expect certain people to do certain things. Um, I don't want to monologue too long because I know we have to move on. I do think there are moments in this movie that are like less than good. Like I think when the focus is on Heath Ledger and Batman in their confrontations, that's where the movie shines for me. Every other moment to that doesn't necessarily feel as good. Although I'm not going to negate how well manufactured it is, and I need to watch it again because I haven't watched it in like 4 years. But I think what makes it such a good movie, or a mark of a good movie, is that you remember it no matter how long it's been since you watched it. And I can say that for Dark Knight.
I really want to do
Awesome.
a
That's so
trilogy
true.
rewatch.
I don't want to watch Dark Knight Rises again.
You don't want to? I kind of want to watch it again just to see like what the hell was that. Anyways.
Anyway, Ethan, number 3.
All right. So my last one is also a comic book movie sequel. Sorry, I'm going corpo again. Another MCU movie. Boo, boo, boo.
Is it
Guardians of
Ant-Man
the
Wasp?
Galaxy.
No, it's not
Is
Ant-Man
it Guardians of
and
the
the Wasp.
Galaxy 2?
No, it's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I know Brandon doesn't think
Oh.
this is as good as the original,
Nope.
but
I think it's the least good Captain America.
that's fucking crazy to me.
I know.
I just got another text saying, "I warned you." Oh god! For those of you listening at home, we're recording these 2 episodes back to back. I don't think we ever mentioned it, just because like Thanksgiving and stuff like that. Oh god! No! When I first saw Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it was like, as a Captain America fan, because I always loved this dude. This was like a reassertion of my love of the character, because back when the Avengers came out, we would play Avengers in 7th grade, and I was always like, I want to be Captain America, and everyone was like, you want to be Captain America? Captain America is lame. Captain America sucks. Everyone at my school hated the first film. They thought he did nothing in the first Avengers film, and I was like, no, but he's really cool and he's really great. I like the first Captain America, but I don't think it's I think it's a great film, but I don't think it's peak MCU, you know?
It's kind of
But when-
corpo.
And it's pretty propaganda, military propaganda, which I'm not really a fan of, but
I like it.
that's because you're a fucking filthy nationalist scum piece of shit. No, no, but when I saw this film for the first time, I was like, oh man, I felt like the MCU as a whole sort of like gained a certain level of gravitas after this film, you know? Like, I was so surprised how they turned Captain America into sort of like an espionage action thriller, political action thriller. I loved I love its sort of narrative about SHIELD and how, because they never really did that, a storyline like that in the comics where like, yeah, SHIELD always been compromised by Nazis. Like, they've always been here, and that's just how this fucking system has been built by these fucking racists, you know? And I was like, what? This is in a fucking MCU movie? This is insane. And I think it has some of the best action sequences of the MCU, just like the hand-to-hand combat and shit like that. I love the scene on the bridge with the Winter Soldier, you know, the knife fight. That's insane. The fight scene on Batroc the Leaper's boat at the beginning is sort of like a bam, fuck you. Captain America is a cool ass character, you know? And I just think I think this is I think this is also has one of the best cinematography out of the MCU. I mentioned that on the last episode of Guardians. I think this is also a very well shot film for a different reason. You know, it's a lot more darker,
The colors
and colder.
suck.
The coloring, I think okay. People always say the coloring in MCU movies are a lot very muted than they should be, and to that I agree. But I think it works in this film in particular because it's a political thriller, you know?
Yeah, it's a grounded political thriller.
I
Less
kind of
of
wish
a-
that the MCU movies were a bit more, you know, not so muted, so this one would stand out as something a lot darker, you know?
Mhm.
But unfortunately that's not really the case. But as a film, like when I saw this in theaters in 2014, I was like, what the hell? This was amazing. And over the years, I once thought that Civil War was better, but now I'm coming around to, okay, even though Civil War has a bunch of heroes and the airport fight sequence is amazing, Captain America: The Winter Soldier just does something narratively a bit more for me, you know?
Mhm. I think like
Okay.
for me, the Captain America movies, at least on in my opinion, have gotten better as time has gone on. In terms of like Civil War is my favorite. Going back is Winter Soldier, and the lowest, even though still good, is the first Avenger. But what stuck out to me a lot with Winter Soldier was how it like a political thriller about betrayal, about friendship, but also about like, what do we condition as being right and true? Because the thing is, we do, even though it's not done with like an incredible amount of depth, we do get to see why Hydra thinks the way it does. Why does Hydra think order is more important than freedom? And why does the real Shield believe
Mhm.
in freedom over order?
Or
And you start to see like, this is very much for me when Captain America started to become a very 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 three-dimensional character.
yeah.
Because I was kind of like, Ethan, admittedly, before watching this movie, I thought Captain America was kind of like this goody two shoes Boy Scout kind of guy.
And I understand that
But
because I don't think the movies fleshed him out as well as he is in the comics. In
yeah,
those
but I
first
think,
two.
but here's the thing. I think that's the point. I
Yeah.
think we're meant to believe that this guy is like a goody two shoes, like, like always gonna stand up for the good old American way.
Mhm.
But because Captain America is not that boring, is not a boring character. He's a guy who, the man at a time. He is
Yeah.
the guy who, he's loyal to Shield until he realizes it, realizes what's going on, and Hydra's growing within it, and you start to like, start to see Captain America deconstruct his own understanding of what is true and what is right and what's fair.
Right.
You get to see him leave Shield.
Gaba.
He takes out they say we need to take out Hydra, and then he's like, no, we need to take out all of Shield,
Yeah.
because he realizes like we can't trust these guys going forward, and and that comes into full form in Civil War, especially when contrast against Iron Man's philosophy that he grows through within his own trilogy.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just really great. I really love like where they take his character here. I think they knew that they were going to do this to his character. That's
Right.
why I think First Avenger and this are great companion pieces,
Oh yeah.
and why this builds upon that very well.
Because
But
that
yeah,
first film sort of like sets up that Captain America was living in this world of propaganda growing up as a kid.
yeah,
And
he was born into the American image.
the golden era, as people call it, and like that, and he has to like see how that American image. And I like how you talk about what Hydra's definition of order. He has to
Mhm.
see how that definition has sort of like snuck its way into like our government today, and
Yeah,
it's kind of frightening that like we see ourselves as like this land of the free and shit like that, but
yeah,
secretly there's like the system that we've built that like we love and we celebrate is not is not built on like very like morally right foundations, and has never like, and could dangerously go somewhere that will be what more like what we saw in Nazi Germany, it more into a fascist figure, which is like as corpo, and like a lot MCU movies get a lot of military funding, this was sort of like this film was sort of like my real, like my awakening into like, wait, what is this like country that I've been living in, celebrating in for most of my life, it was weird seeing it from this movie. It's sort of like, it's a very formative film for me. But yeah, Brandon.
Brandon, you're the biggest Captain America fan out of all of us. So go on.
I've I think out of all of the MCU heroes, negating the ensemble features, I feel like Captain America's movies are leaps and bounds ahead of the other ones.
I would say so too. Yeah, in some
In
ways.
terms of their themes, in terms of their character development, in terms of their just overall differences in stories. Because I feel like each of the three Captain America movies provide something different. The first one's like a patriotic American film, stuff that you'd see in the 1940s as like military propaganda, feel good shit, like Sergeant York or Yankee Doodle Dandy. 70s, 80s political spy thriller for Winter Soldier, and for Civil War, it's like It's like an Avengers action ensemble military complex movie, but also one about human beings and if you have the right to regulate them.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those has a little bit of political intrigue to them. And I've always loved Captain America since I was a kid. Like, even before I got into comic books, I was into Captain America as a character. I saw him on TV shows. I mean, I read about his character in books, and I remember really relating to him as this like I wrote an essay as a kid like called Cap and Me or something like that. And
Like Mac and
Marley and
Me?
me, Cap and
no,
Brandon.
not like that.
Marley and me, Cap and Brandon.
More like making comparisons to the way like I conduct myself because of a fictional character. And less allegiance to the country, more allegiance to the ideas set forth by the country and the character. And I really related to his story. He grew up like a scrawny kid with integrity, and he kept that integrity throughout. Like, usually in movies like this, you see somebody gain power, like in Shazam, for example, a kid literally gain power and kind of irresponsibly use it and change his personality to begin with, and that kind of bores me. Where you have this character who sticks with that integrity, this background, and yes, he's all American, and that will get tackled as propagandist, but in the way that he functions within this trilogy, and I believe the later comic books, there's something more there with him questioning his own allegiance to a society, kind of like you said, Ethan. And I've always found that fascinating, but he never loses his integrity despite his allegiance to the country and then his allegiance to other factions, like the Avengers, for example, or S.H.I.E.L.D., or other places.
Right.
And his character arc is one of my favorites. As for Winter Soldier, I like it a lot. It's my least favorite Captain America, but mostly because the first Captain America is how I associated the character with me growing up. Like, that's what I associated him with. So it was like a dream come true seeing it on the big screen. And then Civil War, I personally think is better just because I love the angle it goes down. Civil War was one of my favorite comic books growing up. And I love how they sort of adapted it and then made Zemo. I wasn't sure about how they handled Zemo at first, but now I really like it.
Yeah.
And it's just that Winter Soldier kind of gets the short end of the stick, despite the Winter Soldier storyline being pretty great and one of the best adapted stories. And I agree on that bridge sequence. I remember seeing this in theaters and in like a fucking moment of bliss when they're fighting with the night fight and the music is building up, and then he fucking unfurls the mask and you see it's Bucky. I mean, I knew it was gonna come because I've read the comic books, I know the character, but it was like awesome to see that in live action. Not only that, but when they first meet and the fucking shield gets punched and you hear it reverberate and you're shaking in your seat, it's engaging. And it is. I'm less of a fan of the back half of the movie. I think it's good. But I feel like it loses some of the steam from the first half when it's very political thriller, very nuanced. Whereas at the end, it kind of goes into like your typical MCU third act, which isn't bad because it has that amazing moment with Bucky on the helicarrier. I'll be with you to the end of the line. Amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean, it kind of peters off, but I still really enjoy the movie, and Captain America is leap and bounds above the other MCU heroes in my regard. Sorry, that was a lot. I love him.
that was great.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that was
such a
really
good
good.
character.
Yeah.
He's such a great character.
Yeah. All right. Brandon, take us into the final pick of the episode.
All right. Actually, I'm going Corpo. My final film is Avengers Endgame.
Extra corpo, here comes the money. Here comes the money. Money. Yes.
I saw this movie 7 times, 8 times maybe in theaters. I lost count. You could check my letterbox. It's 7 or 8. I adore this movie. I have never felt so fulfilled. You can call me a shill all you want, but like, I'm not even like the biggest fan of all the MCU movies, as you guys know. I like them, but I don't love them. And I wrote a fucking essay about this movie, basically, in my second review because of how great the first half of the film is at telling this story about people regretting their like decisions previously and grappling with their like failure. And I think that when you bring failure into a superhero movie, that's when you get like the most intriguing like character development, because I love the first hour of this movie, and I talk to people who are just regular audience goers. They don't watch movies a lot. They love the MCU movies. They hate the first hour of this movie. They hate it because it's so slow and boring, and they want to get to the last third, which is great. But that first third is so rare that you get
And
something like that for so long in a superhero movie.
yeah, it's
And then
so
this-
essential to what makes this movie great. Because yeah,
Yeah.
you get all that action, but without that first bit, it's stakeless.
I agree with
But
that.
yeah,
And it's not, it's like, it does one of my favorite things. I love time jumps in movies. I love it when they allow there to be, you know what happens at the end of a story or beginning of a story, but then they kind of cut stuff out, and you kind of have to piece back together these characters that you knew who are now in a different place. And you kind of have to like follow all their storylines, and it can be a bit much for some people. But for somebody who's been as invested as myself and as all of us were, it was so nice to see every storyline pay off, them go back to certain points
Yeah.
and learn from their past events, their past selves. And then not only that, but do it while putting their lives on the line, which is part of the fun of a superhero movie. Is like, you want to be that hero. You want to save the world. And in this movie, they learn. They not only learn, but they like become the better selves that they've always wanted to be. And Captain America's story arc, the way it wraps up in this movie, the way Iron Man's story arc also adds up in this movie, are diametrically opposed, but so fitting because you don't
Yeah.
expect it. And yeah, some of the greatest movie moments in history in this. In that last third, the hammer, your boy,
Oh.
your boy
Ooh,
left
still
ass
get
left the
goosebumps
seat.
every time
His
I watch
ass-
that movie.
Brandon's ass left the fucking seat when that
Yeah.
happened.
Brandon
That is-
fucking ascended.
That is my favorite movie moment ever in cinema, and I'm not somebody who reacts to things very vocally in films.
Right.
I'm very
Yeah.
like, I'll show it in my body language. I won't show it in my vocal cords or often physical ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
No,
I've never been as screaming and happy and almost on the verge of tears as I was in that film, and it's
Yeah.
for thematic reasons as well as just elation because of satisfaction.
Right.
Finally.
Yeah. Brand, I still remember, like, so you know how that moment where Cap gets the hammer, but like before that, we see the hammer get lifted off the ground, but we don't know what's happened. We don't know that
Yeah.
it's Cap yet. The second I saw that shot, I knew in my heart that it was going to be Cap. So my eyes looked at you for a second.
I
And
didn't
then
know who it was.
Yeah, I
Really?
think you. I
No,
think
I
you
didn't.
Oh man. Yep. Here
Yeah,
we go.
I think Brandon had guessed that Thor had just recalled Mjolnir to him. But anyway, as soon as Captain grabbed that hammer and we have that music cue, we have his stare down with Thanos.
Oh.
I saw Brandon like hands on the fucking like seat, like armrest, like ass off the seat and just going, oh. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Brandon, that last third is fucking incredible.
It's
Like,
very
and
special.
it is everything a Marvel like fan, like all three of us, could have ever wanted. And you know, I know, like, you know, of course, not everyone's a big Marvel fan, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, what makes this movie so special to me? Of course, yeah, I love watching the portal scene. I love watching Captain America finally say Avengers Assemble and they charge in, and I love seeing you know, just all of like that crazy fantasy stuff that I've always wanted to see on the big screen. But what brings me back to this movie every time is the emotional payoff and the setup that happens throughout this film. It is a fucking ride. And like, you know, Brandon, you cried when fucking Ant-Man saw his daughter.
I know.
That was like within 20 minutes of the movie. You grabbed my tissue
I did
box.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that like that, and it's just like if look, I know like we always talk about how the MCU is very corpo and whatnot, and like I know that's not cool or whatever, and but at the same time, if I'm able to have a positive, happy, and enjoyable experience in the theater, why should I feel bad about that? And I don't
Right.
think anyone should. And yeah, I mean, like, fuck me, like, this movie just like it really just taps into all of us. Like, I think it touched us, of course, in a level that is thematic and about grief, about overcoming oneself and one's past. But it's also because it's us. This is so special to us. This was a movie that we've been looking forward to since we saw Thanos at the end of Avengers 1 when we were 13 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, how can you ever call, like, how can you ever say, like, you guys are like being corpo and shallow for liking this movie when we've been invested in it for a third of our lives?
I feel like people just they understand. It's just that because they didn't have the same perspective, or
Yeah.
per se they don't invest themselves in and say they kind of disassociate themselves ahead of time, and they'll look past the entertaining bits, and they'll see it and they'll be like, well, somebody in a boardroom like pitched this,
Yeah.
and that it was obvious that this was going to happen. But for me, I mean, I'm just invested. For me, it's more the characters that drive me to this film. It's not the explosions and the action sequences. It's the quiet moments. Like, even in the worst fucking Marvel movies, or the most disappointing, it's like the moment in Avengers Age of Ultron where they're sitting at the fucking table, fucking bantering.
Yeah.
It's not a great film, but small moments like that are fun, or moments where they're showing their humanity, like in that discussion in Civil War where they're trying to debate whether or not they should sign the Accords or not.
Yeah.
In the whole first hour of this movie, those little moments are what make it for me, and not
Yeah.
the people who are saying we're shills because we like the action movies.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy how sort of my journey with the MCU has sort of began and ended in the same cycle of how people see me as an MCU fan. Like when I first started these movies, nobody cared about them. When I saw Iron Man and Thor, I dressed up as Thor for Halloween. I got beat up by a kid. I got decked. I got kneed in the butt when I wore a Captain America sweater, sweatshirt
Dude.
in the locker room. And it's just like these movies sort of taught me like what it means to be like, comic books have that thing for younger audiences where these heroes teach you what it means to be a good person. And I'd like to think that that's where I got my moral compass, is from these films, from
Yeah, absolutely.
Iron Man learning like that, like learning to control his ego, and Captain America learning like how to be a good person in the face of a system that he like didn't necessarily think like what it was at first, and
Yeah.
like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and like how to be how to fit in as a family, and what is like who is your family, and then Ant-Man, my favorite film of all time. I wrote my college essay on Ant-Man, and that's how I got into Chapman,
Moral
I wrote my
ambiguity.
essay on Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, and that's how I got into this damn school. So and now I'm just coming back to Endgame, and it's surprising how many people rag on me because this film means so much to me. It's just it's the finale of a television show that's been premiering episodes 2 times a year, and it's I knew Brandon was gonna put this on his list. I didn't put it on mine because like I said, I wanted like the drastic changes in quality on mine. Whereas I think Infinity War is I think Endgame is the best of the Avengers films, but I think Infinity War is almost as good. But yeah, come on, boys, the time we
Morality.
saw it in theaters for the first time, that's
I will
something
never forget that
we
day.
will
That
never
was-
forget that for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Ugh.
We will tell, like, I think we would all tell our kids about that.
Yeah.
Like, that is a moment I will never forget.
I was waiting for a movie in my life where I would explicitly be like, if I had kids, what movie would you expect to ask you? Like, my dad had
mom always
Star
talks to
Wars.
me. Yeah. Star Wars. My mom's always like, when Princess Leia lost Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back, I cried for days, and I was like, I want to have that experience with a big
And that was,
blockbuster.
and I
And
feel
that was
like that was
the
it.
end of Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, I feel like there's moral ambiguity and beauty to these storylines that you wouldn't normally find in a comic book series. Or maybe today you would, but back then it was, entertainment, fluff.
Mhm.
But I feel like more recently we've gotten into the more powerful blockbusters. And I think we're going out of that phase because of, one, the state of the industry, and two, the fact that I
Yeah.
feel like blockbusters are just getting worse because they are becoming shallow. Say what you will about certain films, but I think we hit peak at the right time.
It's going to be interesting to see what the MCU is like going forward.
Correct.
Because this as an MCU fan, this past year has been kind of reflexive, like learning about how these films have been made, and one thing that has really been bothering me is like how much funding these films have been getting from the Pentagon and from the US military, which are
Mhm.
making them all essentially like propaganda films, which doesn't sit well with me, even though I love
Yeah.
these films dearly. So it's just like it's this weird time for me to navigate like the art that I love versus how it's made, and I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see
It is
what's like
better
going
than the
forward.
other ones, though. I would say that, at least.
Mm.
Yeah,
I think the reason Avengers used to be one of my favorite movies ever made.
me too.
And then I watched
Same.
it like 4 years later, and I was like, wow, the pacing is terrible.
It
wow,
looks like a TV show.
And it looks like it's
Except for
shot
the
like a
end.
sitcom.
Yeah.
And then Age of Ultron is shot better, but the script is not very good
Yeah.
outside of the
They
banter.
They really do kind of waste Ultron. I
I
love
feel like
James
they
Spader.
rushed it too.
They rushed Ultron, yeah.
And then Infinity War is really good. I feel like and everybody says Infinity War is better than Endgame, which I don't agree with.
I don't agree with either.
I think Infinity War is really entertaining ensemble movie, much like the first Avengers, but they fixed the pacing problems they had, except you don't spend enough time with the characters to like really have moments. Like you have comedy moments, but rarely do you have emotional moments until the very end. It feels like a nonstop adventure till the end when it has
Yeah.
that like 10-minute sequence where you're like fucking like, wow. Like we were when Chris and I saw Infinity War together on
Yeah.
opening night in
My
Cinemark
mouth
XD.
dropped, and like I cried my eyes out when.
But
Will
did
Tom
we see it?
Holland bit the dust?
Did we see Endgame in the Dolby or the IMAX first?
IMAX.
Okay, we
IMAX.
saw it in
We saw it
IMAX.
proper.
But when
Yeah.
we saw that in the IMAX, I immediately knew that it was like one of the best films I've ever seen, and the best Avengers movie, because it improved upon the predecessors as well as actually took its time with its story. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
all I gotta say.
Awesome.
Sorry for taking so long.
No, dude, this is a conversation I think like we've all wanted to have on Stacked,
yeah.
and it's great we finally have to get to have it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all three of our stacks, guys. Shall we round it off?
Let's do it.
All right, so I'll go first. My three films were Spider-Man 2, Blade Runner 2049, and The Dark Knight.
And I was Jason Lives, Godzilla vs. Biollante, and Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
My three are Godfather 2, Mamma Mia 2, and Avengers Endgame.
Wow.
Okay, I meant to make them so disparate because I had
Yeah.
two action movies and I was like, I could switch Godfather 2 and Mamma Mia 2, but then it would be like, samesies, corpo. No, I'm not going to do that.
But okay, so
Ooh.
I definitely want Avengers Endgame on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think after that conversation, we need it to
We
be on
need
there.
it would have been. It's kind of like. Do you remember when we talked about Shape of Water for like 25 minutes? And
Yeah.
imagine if we didn't pick it.
And all right, let's
All
just
right,
go.
so-
Jason Lives, Mamma Mia, Spider-Man 2. Okay.
I don't know.
So Avengers Endgame. I would love to get either 2049 or The Dark Knight in there.
Yes.
Ooh.
Do you guys have a favored one? I don't know.
Okay, here's my thing.
Hmm.
I would like 2049 only because, and I would take Dark Knight normally, but we already have a superhero movie if we're doing Endgame.
That's true. Okay, I will give you that.
Technically, Dark Knight, it's not my favorite Batman, but it's not about me. It's about the stack.
For the stack, and we
For the
also got to
stack.
keep in mind that these are the stacks of sequels better than the original. You know,
Mhm.
and I think,
I like
well,
the
at
Tim
least for
Burton
me,
Batman.
Blade Runner 2049. I know what you feel about Blade Runner, but those two are. I like the original Blade Runner more, but I just think Dark Knight is just like that. It's a definition of a sequel better than the original. You know,
Boo.
doing better on all fronts.
Hmm.
I mean, it'll work. It's just I don't want it to be like too superhero heavy.
Okay, well, okay. Let's think about this. What is our third? What do we want up for third? Ethan, none of your picks have been chosen yet, but is there one
Mamma
you
Mia.
particularly want to nominate?
Well, let's think about it like this, guys. The Friday the 13th franchise is garbage, except for Jason Lives.
You just want to make a random.
Just proving
marathon.
it that it's a sequel better than the original. I want Captain America: The Winter Soldier, but you're right. I don't want too many. I don't want this to be
Corpo.
3
Yeah.
comic book movies.
Yeah.
If you guys take my word for it, Godzilla versus Biollante is fucking amazing.
That's technically a superhero movie. Just
No, it's not. It's a monster movie. It's a monster.
No, it's a
action
being movie.
It's a being.
It's a big movie.
I don't know. I feel like I might get shut out this episode, but I think I pick good picks in my heart.
Hmm.
This is hard. I don't know.
I want Blade Runner.
Ethan, if we get Jason in there, would this be too weird if we had Endgame, Blade Runner, and
That'd be fucking hilarious.
What if we had Endgame, Mamma Mia 2, Blade Runner?
No, not Mamma Mia 2.
the
What it
two
would-
like giant epic movies, and then the fucking Mamma Mia 2?
Mamma Mia 2 is epic.
It is pretty epic.
Godzilla versus Biollante is pretty epic. That's all I'm gonna say. Fuck. How about
I might be willing to give Ethan free reign over the last pick.
Okay,
Really?
but what's your what
But,
do you
like-
want, Chris?
yeah? What do you want out of yours? Which one?
Yeah.
Between Blade Runner and The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Ethan, if you pick...
Ooh, ultimatum.
No. Okay, here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I will pick The Dark Knight because I want to say... Even though I think The Dark Knight is my favorite... And even though Dark Knight is my favorite movie, I think I can apply Blade Runner to different stacks going forward. So I could save that.
We do still have superhero movies. Just putting that out there. We haven't done
Whatever. These are
Okay.
blockbusters.
that. Okay.
Oh,
that's-
we still have like a superhero. I feel like we're gonna get more specific, though. I don't think we're ever gonna do general superheroes movies. I think we're gonna do like Marvel movies and DC movies.
okay, that's fair. I
But
was just
remember, that
making
also
sure.
means Avengers Endgame will never make it onto that.
That's okay.
That's
That is
Okay.
totally fine.
Okay. So in that case...
fuck
fuck.
it. Let's put Dark Knight on and let's make our DC movies one be really creative.
All right, so Endgame, Dark Knight, and Jason, or something. I don't know.
Godzilla versus Biollante. That's my pick. That's what I'm gonna
I-
put. Trust
I'll-
me, guys. This this movie's a blast. You gotta check it out. You don't even need to watch any Godzilla movie to see this one.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to take
succeed.
your word for it. Yeah,
So-
I succeed.
I think our ordering should be Godzilla first, just to get the least one well known out of the way. Then Dark Knight, and then of course you got to end it with Endgame. You know.
You got to end it. You will be an emotional wreck, and you will cry your eyes out throughout Dark Knight
Yeah.
if you watch Avengers Endgame second. And also, what a long screening this would be.
I think Godzilla versus Biollante is 90 minutes, so that's
Okay.
a quickie in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know.
Imagine if the list was like Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, and Wolf of Wall Street or something.
No, Godfather Part 2, and then Dark Knight. We'll be there for
Godfather Part-
fucking hours.
That's
all
why I
night long.
suggested it. Because I like spending time with my friends.
I like spending time, except for we can't anymore because
Curfew.
Curfew.
Curfew. Curfew.
Anyway, let's run it down, guys. So,
Okay.
Ethan, start us off.
All right. For our first pick of Stack's official sequels, better than the original final stack, we have 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante. I think a perfect depiction of an 80s sequel franchise blockbuster that it's like kind of like Tim Burton's Batman, where it's that fantastical, but it's dark and stylish, but it's also poppy. And it's a really good time. It's one of the weirder Godzilla films. And yeah, I know not a lot of people have seen it, but I think you'd like it. Check it out. Godzilla vs. Biollante.
All right, and our number 2 film, a 2008 film directed by Christopher Nolan, his magnum opus, some might say, The Dark Knight. An amazing film about philosophy, morality, crime, and all things to do with the incredible dichotomy that exists between the Joker and Batman.
And our final film is Avengers Endgame, the best finale, a very special film to all of us, and one of the best sequels ever made. We even compare it to Star Wars, fellas. Anyway,
Woo!
thanks for
Yeah.
watching.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to check out any of our social media links down below. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Hope everyone is having a great time in the holidays. And yeah, have
Chris,
a good one, everyone.
I think you did a very good job hosting.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
guys,
now
we
it's
forgot one
time-
movie.
What?
We forgot something.
What?
The best sequel ever made.
What?
Shrek 2.